intelligence and the autonomous enterprise when AI, there's that word again, designs, builds, and runs the physical world. Please welcome our panelists, Amit Chadha, CEO and MT with L&T Technology Services. Come on up. Come on up. Are you coming up from the crowd? I see you. There you are. Lights. Okay. Next we have Steve Hall. There you go. Steve Hall, President, ISG, EMEA, and Chief AI Officer. Frank Dijck, CTO and board member for Vanderlande. Lori Warda, AI Product Director, AVEVA. And Philip Hamm, Director, Software Engineer, Collins Aerospace. Hello. And we have our fabulous moderator. If you would please also come up, Aishwarya Anand with CNBC TV 18. And now I'm turning it over to her to talk about the engineering things.
Just give it a shake.
Yeah, that's it.
Shall we sit?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
We would like your permission.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are entering a fascinating moment in engineering. For decades, machines were simply tools that engineers used. But now, machines are not only starting to design systems, operate infrastructure, and even optimize themselves. So that leads us with a very, very big question, and that is, what happens when engineering itself becomes intelligent and enterprises begin moving towards autonomous? So to discuss and delve deeper into that, we have a stellar panel here, and I want to start the conversation with a very quick perspective from each of you. When intelligence moves from software into machines, factories, aircraft, and infrastructure, what fundamentally changes about engineering leadership? Amit, I'd like to start with you.
I was thinking I'd go last, but I'll go first. So let me start with the joke. You know what it takes to run a production plant today? A man and a dog. The man to feed the dog, and the dog to make sure the man doesn't touch the machines. Ladies and gentlemen, with AI becoming a mainstay, and our MC talked about the word, I think one of the most important things as an engineering leader, or the engineer myself, will be to actually upscale the engineering staff itself to be able to leverage the automation, the self-learning, the self-healing, the self-generating that automation can bring. So that's, I'm starting first, so I'll just say one thing. If it is to bring people along, upskill them to be able to leverage that skill, to be able to leverage the automation.
Steve, you've been nodding. What's running in your mind?
I think the biggest thing is the autonomous enterprise is going to make every engineer a business leader. And what we've seen for so many years is engineering was part of the piece, but it wasn't front and center. What we see now is this big shift where the product, the engineering product, is becoming the business. And whether that's in software or the physical side. So you're going to see this new growth where maybe some of the traditional skills, maybe some of the software development is going to be supported with pilots and different things, co-pilots to do that, agents to do it. But you're going to see this really big shift where they become business leaders, and that's going to trigger new thoughts and new growth.
Okay. And Frank, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, some other perspective. I think as engineers we need to learn and understand that AI is becoming critical infrastructure in everything that we do. So we need to make sure also as engineers and engineering leaders that we have a proper governance in place that covers the end-to-end process, where we really look at resilience, observability and cybersecurity in all the different automation layers that we have. Otherwise we'll, let's say, create situations that we probably do not want.
Lori, would you like to weigh in?
Sure. In addition to all of these great points, I think another capability or another thing that the engineering leaders are going to have to really consider is that the answers aren't deterministic anymore. It's no longer just solving a problem. When we all went to school, we learned how to get a problem that had one answer. And now you're dealing with all these individual components that are going to maybe not be 100% giving you the same answer all the time. So you need to think differently, and you need to think more about safety. You need to think more about resilience and think about how you're going to handle that situation where things aren't always going to be 100% deterministic.
Philip?
Yeah, Lori makes a great point here about the determinism. I think to add on to that, we're used to thinking about engineering almost as discrete technologies. This is software's role, this is the mechanical side, this is systems. And we're moving into a much more integrated world where as a leader of engineers, you're going to need to be able to think from an integrated system standpoint. The lines are well blurred.
Okay, so essentially, engineering leadership itself is evolving from building systems to orchestrating intelligent ones. So, Amit, I'll start the conversation with you, which is that LTTS has been championing the idea of engineering intelligence for some time now. So, how is it actually different from traditional digital transformation, and what does it enable enterprises to do today that they have not been able to do in the past decade?
Thank you. So if you look at digital transformation, and we can get into a debate on this, but digital transformation is all about connecting systems, simplifying processes, improving processes. If you look at engineering intelligence or you look at artificial intelligence, if I take a step back and talk about engineering intelligence is all about physical AI, manufacturing, industrial AI, and engineering AI. And let me explain. Physical AI for me is putting a chip in a camera, processing images much faster than I could ever do it, and then doing an analysis and taking action on it without human intervention. Example, and we can go on and on. Manufacturing intelligence, I talked about the man and a dog, but on a serious note, it's about autonomous systems, reliable systems, safe systems. This is not, and I'm sorry for saying it, it's not an iPhone where I can keep sending a software upgrade. There are lives at stake, there is production lines, you've got to be safe. And then finally comes engineering intelligence, where you're actually leveraging AI to do testing, to do part of product development life cycle, to look at software development life cycle. So that entire thing is engineering intelligence. I do believe that as we look ahead, and a lot of my colleagues here on the panel talked about it, it's bringing all this together and delivering a superior experience, a more reliable experience to the world.
Okay, so talking about a superior, reliable experience, Steve, you've had a global vantage point in advising enterprises across sectors, right? So what are you seeing when we talk about engineering intelligence? Where is it actually delivering real value? And where is the industry still stuck in the experimentation phase?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things with this. So the autonomous enterprise is really expanding out the entire ecosystem.
Correct.
We're seeing it where so many organizations are now embracing what IT and others did many years ago with sourcing and doing other things. We're seeing over $1 billion of ACV per quarter, 30% increase, quarter over quarter as we see this rise here. So the numbers are so compelling as we think about the ecosystem play. So I think the big change that I see in the market now, organizations are realizing that I don't have to do this alone, that IP protection and other things that have really kind of led to a closed loop environment a little bit is opening up. The tools are certainly making a big help. We talked about the AI and what they can do. That's been a massive change. Most of us are engineers. We've been around a long time in this industry. We know the impact of AI. But quite frankly, November 2022 changed everything on how we see about it, and that exploded sort of the opportunities in the market. That ecosystem is there now.
Okay. A lot of changes that we have seen, one has also been the kind of automation today that we are seeing in warehouses. And Frank, you worked in large-scale warehouse automation that sits right in the intersection of engineering and real-world operations. So how closely are we to truly optimizing warehouse system where AI doesn't just optimize operations, but also designs and runs them?
It goes a little bit to where you started with, the man and the dog. So the dog to watch out that the man doesn't touch the machine. No, but seriously, there's quite some development going on in that area. And if you look at how, let's say, the autonomous warehouse would look like, it starts with self-design and self-designing system. There's all kind of tools available now to do concepting, to do the design, the engineering, the layouting, and optimizing it, automated simulation, etc. So it starts with self-design. Then you have self-orchestration of the system, of the operations. So that means that the system starts to think as a supervisor, as a manager of the warehouse, to decide on certain priorities, on flows optimization, those type of elements. You have self-execution of the warehousing tasks, like picking robots that do autonomous picking. You have, let's say, AMR or robots that move goods autonomously. So that step is also coming already. Fourthly, you have self-healing maintenance, so meaning that you have the systems in place that do predictive maintenance, that do optimization schedule of maintenance activities in order to, let's say, reduce the amount of maintenance needed and to optimize the system performance. And lastly, it's going towards self-governing systems, where you really have a network of warehousing where, let's say, AI or a system can decide which activities will be handled in which warehouse, how the flow will be distributed over the different warehouses. So there's all kind of topics that drive and let's say, pave the road to that fully autonomous warehouse.
I want to add something to that because we're seeing a lot of startups. I've noticed that back in India, but they're now bringing in humanoids, they're bringing in robodogs for warehouse automation, and that brings me to a very interesting point where when you get humanoids, when you get robodogs, does that make people lose their job, or does that create more jobs that are better suited for human beings who are working in the warehouses?
At the end, what you see is that automation takes over activities of humans to make it more efficient and to, let's say, reduce the need of labor. What you see, the highest drive for automation of warehouse is the lack of labor. So that's why we need to automate for a big part, of course, also because of efficiency, etc. But that's one of the main reasons. So yes, there will be a trend that more labor will be replaced by, let's say, robots, or maybe in the future humanoids, who knows. But at the end, I think what it will mean is that we need to learn as humans how to work together with AI, with robots, and to create, let's say, different type of jobs out of that. Instead of saying that it replaces job, no, we need to look at how can we create or work together with robots or with AI to really, let's say, also earn our money.
Amit, do you have a take on that?
Actually, very short story. So I was at the India AI event, and we were showcasing a humanoid that we have programmed. So we haven't built the humanoid, we'll be clear about it. We programmed the humanoid to actually work on construction projects and rebarring at, 10 stories high, 20 stories high, etc. And there was this old lady who walked up to me and she talked to me in Hindi and she said, "What is this?" And I explained to her that in Hindi, that this was a little humanoid that was used for construction. And very softly she asked me, "Will this take away jobs?" And my answer was, "Amma," and Amma means, with salutation, mother. So I said, "No, it won't take away jobs. It actually helps execute stuff where before this humans used to do it and a lot of people used to get into accidents. So this is actually picking up roles which otherwise would have been a safety issue at times." Now, we can always argue both sides, but I do believe, and I agree with you completely, that as the population continues to get educated more and more, there will be stuff that will get automated, there will be the human eyes that will come in and play a role, and it will be an A plus B. But what it will require is a mindset to change. And lastly, and I'm going to shut up after that, is it'll have to happen with each one of us. And if we can, look at our kids, and I learn from my two boys all the time, if they can change and we can look at them and change, why not do that professionally?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Did you want to add something? Okay. Another powerful enabler of this shift has been digital twins and industrial AI. So, Laurie, AVEVA sits right at the intersection of industrial software, data, and operational AI. So today, if I have to understand from you that how are digital twins evolving from visualization tools into real decision-making engines that can optimize industrial operations autonomously?
Great question. So at AVEVA, we're working on building out our digital twin infrastructure because first and foremost, it's super important to have that foundation. You need the data, you need to have your data organized and in context. And the first problem really was to solve for visualization, was to be able to view things on a dashboard or view your information together, and then the humans going off and making the decision. But once you have that foundation, we can add a lot of analytics and AI to it and start finding early warnings of problems. We can start optimizing schedules of maintenance based on all kinds of factors that the AI can crunch, ginormous amounts of numbers that would take the humans days and days to do. And I think that foundation really gives you that basis, and where we can go from here, where we are now, and where we're going to go in the next 5 years is unimaginable, I guess, I imagine. But anyway, it's an exciting time, but we're starting to see the digital twin being used for more than just visualization. It'll be an analytical tool and used for simulation and optimization.
So additionally, also help us understand that what architectural changes that will be needed to make AI native industrial operations possible.
So really, it's about the data. It's about having your data organized and in context, whether it's in your own system or you're using another system. If a human can't walk through and look at that data, then the AI won't be able to either. So getting yourself set up is the most important foundation that you can build to make that possible.
Okay, getting yourself set up to make that possible. I will steer this conversation now a little bit towards one of the most safety critical engineering domains. Philip, Aerospace is one of the most complex and safety critical engineering environments in the world today. So as aircrafts become more connected and autonomous, how is advanced software engineering combined with AI, is it reshaping aerospace platform?
I think so, and you use the word complex, right? Very complex, both in the creation and in the execution or operation of these systems. And so I see with AI, it really opens doors in both of those realms, right? Cognitive load is a key factor for us. The cognitive load of those developers who are making these vast and complex integrated systems, as well as the cognitive load of those mission planners or mission executors who must make the right decision with the information. We want them to go from systems operators into decision makers, right? So we're really trying to, or I see the AI as a lever in both of those areas.
Yeah. Okay. So what's one thing that separates organizations that successfully scale complex software innovation from those who struggle?
I'm going to say the ability to fail fast. Failure isn't the end of the journey. Failure is the first step. Sometimes it's the 17th step, etc. But can you fail? Can you learn from that? Can you persevere, pivot, and continue to move forward? We're in a point where this is changing fast. The ability to scale these technologies is, let's say, rather wet cement, right? How we're able to actually act, learn, pivot is what makes you a success or perhaps failure.
Okay, all right. Before I go further, a quick show of hands here from the audience. Help me understand, how many of you think AI will eventually design products with minimal human input? Okay. Numbers are quite skewed. All right. Okay. Also help me understand this. I think this is a question that I want to put to all of you. That is, the Digital Engineering Awards recognize some of the most advanced engineering innovations today, but looking ahead, what will define a DEA winner in 2030 that doesn't even exist today? Steve, would you like to take it?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right.
I mean, the Digital Engineering Awards recognizes so much talent today in a very, as we're already seeing it broaden out with AI and everything else. If I jump forward and see, we've got so much ahead of us. I mean, what neural networks have been unleashed, and we're seeing it with deep learning, ML, we're seeing it with Gen AI, we're going to see it with AGI as we go forward, is this ability to connect dots that we've never had the ability to do. So just, Philip, as you were saying with the complexity for airlines, we've never been able to absorb this, right? So you see deep minds doing things like proteins and being able to connect with that. I think the Digital Engineering Awards is going to merge to major issues that we're solving at a, at a human level, at a societal level that we're seeing. And we're just, I was talking earlier, we're only 2 years into this from an agentic standpoint. We're less than 10 years into it from a deep learning ML standpoint. It was only 5 years ago that we beat Go. So we're still, we're almost not even in the teenage years, but it feels like the speed of change is so rapid. So I think this is going to continue to expand, but it's going to be so many new categories as we go through.
Okay. Amit?
2030 is not far away. I would say quantum compute. I know it's been around for a very long time, but people are starting to work on quantum compute hardware and algorithms separately. I was witness to some of that very recently, amazed. So I think if we can use the GPUs and the TPUs, and we can actually start running some of these quantum compute algorithms on that, it could actually lead to a lot more reliable operations, production, as well as design. So that's what I would see. Humanoids, of course.
Humanoids, of course. Okay.
Humanoids, of course, yeah.
In fact, it's becoming like a sci-fi movie. When we were growing up, it was those Star Wars and all becoming live. With this guy who was doing this stuff, pulling the drones and all that.
Yeah.
And so God.
All right. Now, before we end the conversation, I would like to do a quick rapid fire session with you guys. And Frank, I'm going to start with you. One engineering bet you double down on.
I would say humanoids.
Humanoids. Laurie?
I'm going to say digital twins.
Philip?
I think large visual models.
Large visual models.
Emotional intelligence and engineering intelligence.
Steve?
I would say artificial general intelligence with quantum.
Okay. One tech buzzword that will disappear. Anybody can take it first, whoever wants to go first.
I think the word AI is fixing to go away. It's going to be so ubiquitous. You're not going to do a camera with AI in it. It's a camera. It's just the expectation.
Yeah. And I'm going to say digital transformation. I think the same thing. Everybody's going to be there, and that's no longer going to be a thing.
I was going to say that as well, but then...
Laurie stole your answer.
I would say big data.
Big data, okay. Steve?
I'll say co-pilots and human in the loop. It's just going to be part of how we work together with tech.
Interesting. Amit?
Metaverse.
It's not been there for a while now. I think Metaverse hasn't been there for a while. Okay, one AI capability every enterprise must build.
Sorry, say that again.
One AI capability every enterprise must build.
You need the basic knowledge management. I think that every industry needs to have seamless, excellent knowledge management.
Okay.
I was kind of going to say the same thing. You need to build your knowledge graph, and you need to build out that data as your foundation.
Okay. Frank?
Yeah, knowledge-based data documentation, I think that's where what everybody should use. And there's a lot of specifics for the different companies and enterprises, but that's what everything is.
Now, before you two repeat the same answer, I'm going to ask something else.
Well, I was going to go a different route.
We prepared our answers.
We're prepared.
Exactly.
Okay, please.
I'm going to go with the non-engineering. I think we need to learn better intelligence and change management to work with it.
Yep.
And we need to be much more comfortable on our maturity in the use of AI, because right now there's a big disconnect between the people who are using it and not. And there's this trust and fear. We got to get over that. That's a big piece that we got to fix as we go forward.
Amit, what's the answer that you prepared?
Domain and data.
Domain and data. Okay, one business risk we may be underestimating today. Deep breaths.
Underestimating today?
Yes.
I'll tell you this from our side, the legal aspect, it's not fun, but the technology's there, right? But the legal landscape on what we can and can't do with it is a major thing on the horizon.
Okay.
I was going to say, I double down on what he just said. Actually, we're really seeing everybody wants AI in their software, but they're scared of it too. And so we're spending a lot of time trying to develop that governance, trying to develop the practices around AI, trying to give everybody a comfort that we're being responsible about it. So I think right now that is a really big risk. You've got to be really careful when you implement AI that you're considering those.
Okay.
I would probably say almost what Philip was saying, but more on the regulatory and the political side. We have to have some basic standards of what we want from safety and use, but we also have to enable innovation at scale to be able to do that. And right now we're seeing a disconnect on the political side of that, which is going to hurt that discussion.
Frank?
Yeah, and in line with that also the geopolitical aspect in that. You can control it in one part of the world, but then you cannot control what happens on the other side of the world. So on one hand you want to control it, but on the other hand you also need to innovate and continue, otherwise you lag behind as a continent or as a country.
Amit, last but not the least.
No ability to change.
Yeah. Okay. Everything is good to change. That's the classic answer. Well, clearly, the future of engineering is not just digital now. It is intelligent, it is autonomous, and deeply connected to the physical world. And that has been the core point of discussion and conversation at the Digital Engineering Awards today. And I would like to deeply thank the panelists here for such a stellar conversation and for their inputs. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.